We have our ERP of record, which is Ariba, and that's where all procurement transactions are being collected. And then we move on to actual payment data, which is existing in SAP. And on top of that, we also have budgetary data as well coming from our Office of Finance, where it all ties together for us to collect internal procurement data. And then obviously we have, as and when required at a transactional basis, we'll also collect data to ensure that we know what the market data might be, and that will help in day-to-day decision making. So I think from our perspective, when we look at data, I guess we collect different data sources, amalgamate the data using data tools, in like Snowflake and using SQL, and we'll basically be able to then understand how spending happens across NTU and be able to also project, because as I said, we have budgetary data, so that actually helps us look at data end to end. From a maturity standpoint, we're getting to maturity, but we're not there yet. I think we are making use of data for day-to-day transactions. We're also using data for analysis for governance issues. We're using data for review of policies, for example. But I think we can do more, especially with AI and other technology in place. I think that's a really good place that we're in to actually move data maturity to the next level here at NTU. When we first started, I think the data themselves were not clean, meaning when users started to or when users actually categorized the data upstream, they were not selecting the right categories. And so there's a lot initially to get us to the right place. We actually did a lot of manual recategorization by ourselves, and even using the data to actually re-look at the category trees themselves to ensure that it is aligned to how the university is spending monies and how we can potentially capture better data over time by putting in place new methods to actually collect data correctly first time. I think across multiple fronts, I think at a broader policy level, I think what we used was an understanding of how we're getting users in the university to actually procure, right? Whether it's a tender, whether it's a quotation, or whether it's a small value purchase. So we actually used data to actually create a new category of spending or thresholds in the organization to allow for quicker speed to actually getting the item that the requester needs. So that's sort of how data impacts sort of decision making at a policy level. We are also using data operationally, which means that we do look at the turnaround time, the service level across different phases at which our teams are actually working with the users on, and understand where is it that we're spending a lot of time, and understanding whether there's intervention required to provide better services or procurement support for those phases. And then when I go down to the governance side of things, when it comes to areas like split purchases and the likes, we are using analytics to surface these issues, and automation where we then shoot out reminders and gentle nudges, right, to the users to ensure that they do not do more of the transactions that are not proper. So I think across different parts of procurement, we use data to actually push through a more robust way of working, whilst at the same time driving experiences for users overall. For us, I think the key aim is to keep data clean, reduce the complexity, which is not easy, of data in our environment, so that we are able to very quickly look into different scenarios, be able to advise the users when there is a question on what has changed and how we're going to go do things differently. I think, and that's where having a dedicated data and data analytics team will come handy, where when we have any changes in how we want to look at data, they're able to turn around very quickly, rather than data being sort of part and parcel of a procurement person's job. Now, that is still the case, but for us, we have the luxury of also having a data team that actually is even faster and quicker, because they're so used to manipulating data that actually helps us drive better insights. At ProcureCon, I mean, whilst it's time for us to share, but it's also for us to learn as well. So I think what excites me every year for ProcureCon is the ability to learn from peers and hear the latest that they are doing. On our end, I think what we are will share is how we are automating and using analytics to make decisions that make better decisions. And so and how we're using UI, for example, to bring better experiences for our users as well. So I think it's all about sharing what has changed in the procurement space for us here in the university, where we are always trying out new things.